now welcome Mr. Aju Sebastian, partner IBM Consulting India and South Asia, to deliver his keynote titled Transforming Cyber Defense Through Agentic AI. May I request you to kindly put your hands together as we now invite, we can bring in some energy in the hall. We have a very exciting evening ahead. Can we request you to put your hands together and applaud? Thank you. We now welcome Mr. Aju Sebastian. Over to you, sir.
Good evening. Am I audible? Good enough? Thank you. So, a couple of very interesting sessions leading up to my session. A good segue, I would say, into my session, right? Particularly the last fireside chat, we heard a lot of interesting, anecdotes, particularly around some of the topics that I'm going to talk about as we go forward in my presentation. So I'll spend about the next probably 10 to 15 minutes briefing you on the topic that I have for the day, which is transforming cyber defense through agentic AI. Right? We all have come across some of the examples that probably Raghu Vamsi mentioned in his presentation related to breaches, right? And the time taken to figure out some of those breaches, time taken to investigate, the time taken to actually correlate what's happening within the enterprise and what happens in the intervening time is also very important for us to note, right? And every year we release, this report researched on several surveys that we do, which is called the Cost of Data Breach report, right? We partner with Ponemon Institute to deliver this report, right? And what's interesting is to note is that while we all accept that attacks happen, right? And to some extent, a lot of them are preventable. The reason why most of these attacks happen is because the way that we operate our security operations or monitoring operations is still heavily human dependent. To the extent that the teams are so overloaded that we found out in our research that close to 51% of alerts go unnoticed, right, or unreviewed, right, which is a huge, huge impact for any enterprise to deal with. Right. We also noticed that about 57% of organizations are short-staffed, are short on skills, right? And more than half of the respondents that we interviewed responded back by saying that they believe Gen AI will continuously widen the gap between the threat vectors and the threat actors and the defense actors. And that's the world that we are living in. And the business impact, as you heard Rajneesh mention in his presentation as well before me, 4.8 million is the cost of data breach, the average cost of data breach. And the important point is that it keeps on increasing year by year. 2 years back, this used to be somewhere close to $3.26 million, right? And last year to this year, we've had a 10% year-on-year increase from a cost to data breach perspective, right? Couple that with reputational damage, regulatory exposure, it's a huge impact that any enterprise can deal with. Which is why security is now a boardroom discussion, right? We have, earlier security used to be a subsection within the IT organization. Now they are standalone sections with huge budgets. They are boardroom discussions right now, right? And we are at a point of inflection right now, wherein we need to elevate the way that we manage threat. Our threat management services needs to, scale and scale at a very fast pace, right? And it's not that, it's not happening, right? Over the past few years, we've been evolving. All providers, I won't say this particularly for IBM, but all providers have been evolving in how they manage threat, how they do threat management operations, how they do security monitoring operations, right? We've moved away from what was traditionally human-led, primarily very slow and reactive, right, because of all the manual work that needs to be done, to something that would evolved into AI-assisted or more automation-assisted, bringing in some of the incremental impacts to the way that operations add the overall security posture of an enterprise. From there to AI-led, which is what you heard a lot of my predecessors talk about, right? Wherein we bring in AI to bring in speed, consistency, scale to the operational aspect of threat monitoring and threat management, right? And going beyond this, where we expect Agentic to land us into is the autonomy, bringing in autonomy to the operational aspect, right? We are today, at a stage where we can leverage technology, right, that can augment the human labor that we have in our operations mechanisms to add digital labor along with them to provide a more scalable, a more speedy, and a more persistent and a more perseverant solution from an from a threat management operations and a threat management services perspective, right? And all CXOs understand this, right? When the economics of threat changes, as you see in the cost of data breach report, the economics of defense must also change, right? And we are now in the moment of what probably, some years back, what cloud did to infrastructure, right? That is what we expect AI to do with security operations, right? Bring in scale at a massive level, bring in speed at a massive level, and reduce dependency of human skills that are required to isolate, to identify, to isolate, to evaluate, to investigate threats at the speed at which that organizations are going to get hit by with threat actors. And believe me, it's the same on the other side of the table as well. It is the same with threat actors. They are using more and more of AI-led technologies to improve upon their penetration into enterprise security organizations. So it's a battle where we are trying to keep constantly ahead of actors that are using technology to gain trusted access within enterprise systems, right? And that brings me to the breakthrough that IBM is making with its agentic AI-led services on security operations. We call it by the name of ATOM. ATOM is an acronym for Automated Threat Operations Machine. Now think of this as an AI-led cyber operations machine which works autonomously, right? It investigates threats, it detects threats, investigates threats, correlates signals across your enterprise, provides enterprise-wide coverage. It also accelerates response actions and performs response actions for customers, right? And what's beautiful about this entire solution is that it is not a standalone solution that is sold, right? It works very well within, as you would see in one of my slides that follows, very well with your existing ecosystem. What ADAM does is essentially bring in its own set of AI agents, right, around which are primarily around threat intel, threat insights, threat detection, etc., and works effectively with the AI agents that are there in the customer environment, in your environment already, right? Because today, the security environment in any landscape for any organization is spread across multiple technologies, right? And all these technologies are either being platformized or modernized, right? And when we say modernization today, we say, it is AI-led or it's agentic AI-led. So think about a situation where you have a bunch of modernized technologies in your security environment, right? All of them having agentic AI capabilities, but all working in silos to, to, to provide outcomes that are, best delivered for their own platforms, right? And that is where Atom comes in. Atom is not just a bunch of digital agent that provides an outcome for a set services. Atom is also an orchestration engine, right? What Atom does very effectively is to orchestrate all these agentic AI solutions that are available in the customer landscape, right? Um, yeah. All the agentic AI solutions that are available in the customer landscape and deliver a combined outcome, right? So now think about Atom as a super SOC analyst, right? Which is not only, delivering, the pre-boom, the post-boom activities, which is the reactive activities of all the steps that are required to be delivered after a threat is discovered, which is around investigation, pulling logs, scoring the threat in terms of threat disposition, right? Getting the right actions lined up in terms of isolation of the endpoints or blocking of IPs, etc. But it's also doing a lot of pre-boom activities, which is predictive activities that can leverage your existing threat intel platforms with or without agentic AI capabilities that are there in your landscape to do predictive resolutions for threats that can come into your system, right? So that's what autonomous threat operations is all about, right? We reduce the dependence of human talent to do a lot of repetitive activities, which is why you saw in the first chart 51% of the alerts going unnoticed or unreviewed by security operations team. And by no means Atom is about replacing human talent in the security operations framework. It is about transforming the need for the human talent within the security operation frameworks to move from repetitive mundane tasks to more creative tasks that bring in a lot of strategic thinking into security operation, bring in nuanced judgment into security operations as we go forward. That's what Atom is all about, right? And this is not new to IBM. We've been building this for years, right, in terms of our services and as part of our security products as well, right? So, and what it's culminated to now is the technology that we have now come into the market with, which is called Autonomous Threat Operations Machine, right? So for years, we've been working through our X-Force team, which is our threat intel and threat insights team on predictive threat intelligence. We've been working with our TDI teams on detection engineering, which is threat detection insights. And then on the post-boom side, we've been working with the threat disposition systems, scoring the threat, prioritizing which threats to address at first, right? These were all essential part of the services offerings that we used to deliver, right? And now along with that, we've come out with a bunch of digital agents performing tasks that are operational in nature, repetitive in nature, right? What Atom does is bring all this together under one framework, and not only the service operation part of it, it also, as I said, integrates the customer security landscape, however wide it is, right, into one single framework of orchestrating agentic AI agents across multiple technologies to deliver the best possible outcome in the least possible time to make, a positive impact from a security operations perspective, right? So that's what Atom is all about, and that's what we are doing to transform cyber defenses through Agentic AI. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what I had from a briefing perspective for this important topic, right? It's an exciting time to be in the cybersecurity market. We have a booth from IBM downstairs. I would encourage all of us to visit our booth. If you want to know more about Atom, I will be around, right, for any questions, or you can reach out to IBM or any IBMer who can point you to me, right, and we can discuss in detail. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.